Alright, let's talk about 5 masterpieces of metal. And in this video, I'm just going to be talking about albums that were made in the 70s or 80s by classic metal bands. And also, I don't think if you're a big metal fan, there won't be any real surprises here. So it's just a rundown of 5 albums that I think are absolute masterpieces from true metal bands in the 70s and 80s. And let's get rolling right away. Although I want to say one more thing before I do start, which is I could have just picked the first 5 Black Sabbath albums, but I didn't think that would be fair to the other bands. So I'm going to go ahead and open the playing field up here. And we'll start with number 5. I'm going to pick Deep Purple, Perfect Strangers, which I think is going to be the most controversial pick on the list because you could argue this really isn't a metal album, but if you do have that opinion, I challenge you to go back and listen to it a little more closely. At any rate, Deep Purple is generally credited as being one of the bands that helped to pioneer the heavy metal genre, and this album comes as close as they ever did to really personifying it. So I think on certain cuts, particularly Perfect Strangers and Hungry Days and Nobody's Home, there's a lot. You could make that strong case for a metal identity here, particularly in the vocals and guitar. So despite any argument to its authenticity as a pure metal album, it is a masterpiece from top to bottom. Number 4, I'm gonna pick Iron Maiden, Killers. And Iron Maiden has a lot of great albums, but I picked this one for a reason, which is out of all the prototype heavy metal bands, Iron Maiden was the one that I feel had the most hardcore and punk influence that turned toward a commercial bent quite slowly, and Killers is almost the transition album for that. So whether or not you're a Paul Di'Anno fan isn't really the question. The question is, do you appreciate the kind of spirit of the album? And for me, this album is incredible from a mood point of view, from production point of view, from a songwriting point of view, and one song just flows into the other. I don't think there's a dud on the whole thing. Incredible display of Iron Maiden at one of its first peaks. At number 3, I'm gonna put Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Now, like I said, I could have picked any one of the first 5 Black Sabbath albums. They're all masterpieces in my opinion. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath has a standout quality to it in that it has a greater range than some of the other albums. It has an epicness to it. It has a quality of striving and then attaining. So there's some raw, jammy, almost unhewn sections that really come out of the speakers like razor blades, and then there's perfectly produced songs on it like Spiral Architect. And then there's great use of synthesizers, and I think Ozzy's singing is really hitting a peak, and I really feel this is Black Sabbath firing on all cylinders. Okay, at number 2, I'm gonna pick Master of Puppets, and do I really need to say anything more? This is the most polished of the Cliff Burton era Metallica albums. It has the same kind of epic quality that I mentioned in connection with Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. In fact, it's very obviously influenced by Black Sabbath. I think that whether or not you like post-Cliff Metallica as much as you like the Cliff era Metallica, this is the album that most typifies the band at its best. It's got excellent riffs all the way through. There's a lot of spirit to the playing. Each one of the individual members is showcased, and I think it's perfectly balanced. It's got some of their most vicious riffs, and it's got some of their most contemplative, kind of gentler sections like the middle 8 of Master of Puppets. Alright, coming in at number 1, I'm going to pick Judas Priest, Stained Class. Now again, there's a bunch of Judas Priest albums that you could pick as perfect examples of heavy metal, but this one's really special to me, and I think that it deserves a lot of praise. And one reason is for the production on it. There is just an immediacy and a rawness, but yet there's so much energy in it. It's hard to think of another album that has this much raw energy yet this much polish on it, which goes on to be the signature Judas Priest sound, but it's really starting to come together on this one. And another thing that I'd like to mention is Les Binks on drums. He's just killing it all the way through. I like the song order on this one. I like the soloing on this one. And of course, you know, Rob Halford singing like an angel or a demon out of hell, or both combined, you pick. So this, from top to bottom, is just an excellent metal album. Deserves to be on anybody's list. Those are my 5 picks of just masterpieces of classic metal, and I'd be real interested to hear what your list would be, and also what you might think of mine. So go ahead and leave a comment in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.